Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another year of the Sunday Podcast.
I'm Ollie Lam.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
Back in 2025 for our 5th season. You can expect more of this.
He's claiming that he was ill before the semi-final, whatever. But, you know, I just feel like at that point he was just looking for attention.
And some of this.
And you normally say, no human is limited. So I can't limit myself, or I can't just say I can do.
As well as event coverage around all the major races on the UK circuit.
And if you're a fan of the pod, please give us a rating and review on your preferred podcast streaming service.
And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, give us a follow on Instagram at Sunday Podcast.
As always, thanks for listening. See you next time. And we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Hello guys, welcome back to another episode brought to you by sportshoes.com. As always, Sarah Healy on the podcast today, post European indoors, where she obviously took gold in the 3K and a nice world champs showing as well over in China. So great time to get her on, and obviously chatted loads about her training over the past few years, and then the champs itself.
Mate, yeah, obviously professional athlete with Nike and M11. We talk about she's been involved in that group a little longer than many will probably realize. And I think there's some good takeaways. Our biggest takeaway is obviously just how she's dealing with underperforming, you know, her words on the big stage, dealing with that kind of anxiety and really being able to stay focused and not check out in those major championships. But, you know, that being said, I mean, we tried to correct her there. Like, she's still only 24. And so you would look at that European, you know, massive success at European junior level, European youth level, multiple medals, wins. And at 24 to win a European indoor title was pretty good going. So although, you know, there were a few senior champs, Euros and Olympics, etc., where she didn't perform how she would have liked, she's turned it around pretty quickly. So I think that was obviously interesting. And again, being involved in M11, but good week to get a Nike athlete on as well, mate, with the Vaporfly 4s out. I mean, you better move fast because there's not many left on sports shoes already.
Well, mate, we might be kicking around in a couple pairs of those. Matt's trying to convince me to have a little showdown with him over a half marathon. I reckon I'd opt for some Vaporflies. Mate, to be fair, we could turn it into a bit of a shoe walk, couldn't we? As well.
Wear the Addies then, mate. Yeah. I'll get some Addies on feet, mate. You can wear some Nikes.
Yeah. There we go. But yeah, I think, mate, what's I guess scary for our competitors is how kind of tough Sarah Healy is on herself. Like you say, like talks about underperforming at major championships, but so early on in her career, like she's got so much more running left at the elite level that now she's got over that and has got that first major win. I only think she's going to go on and do better and start winning medals outdoors from here. So look out, basically, if you're a competition.
Yeah, no, they're breeding winners at M11, and I think even just being surrounded by your Keelys, your Georges, etc., and your mindset changes automatically. And I think interesting, we got a little bit out of her on that training regime and how hard they go on the regulars. Very, very far removed from those double thresholds and any form of controlled training. They are very much at race pace, as much as possible, really. So yeah, good episode. We'll let you enjoy. A few things we got to wrap up first. Obviously, Grand Slam is around the corner. That's going to be taking place this weekend. While it's happening, we're super excited. I think we were only talking the other day. Finally, we're going to watch some races without pacemakers and the biggest names, and even the press conference and stuff. I do think they are doing a super job, and I just can't wait to see it all unfold, to be honest. So tempted to stay up. Could I handle 3 sort of 2 p.m. times for the next 3 days? I think my body might be ruined. Yeah, no chance. I think I'll be struggling for the sort of mid. I looked at the timetable. Some of them at midnight, 1 o'clock. I think that's going to be a push. So I think I'm going to have to watch it all back early morning. Stay off the phone. But yeah, so we'll come back with a review of Grand Slam and obviously a preview of the National Road Relays, which is around the corner. But I guess little chat about the 10 last weekend. Ellis Cross, best performer, really. I mean, Callie Thackeray as well. Great run from her, 30:53, just dominating in a sort of marathon block. Did a lot of that solo as well. Third in the race. Yeah, she is clearly in good shape to be running sub 31 in that sort of way in a marathon block. But yeah, Crossy was the standout, man, 27:43. And other than that, pretty sort of mediocre day for Team Macau. It happens in the 10, right? It's a pretty brutal event with Leonard running outside 28, suffering with a bit of illness in the build-up, and Beatty being pulled off, and Sarah Astin 32 in bits.
Yeah, for sure. Like you say, it's a 10K, isn't it? And you could turn around in a month and absolutely smash it. So we'll see how they get on. Obviously, I think it's good to get one out early doors anyway. I think they'll be pleased he did it, got one out, and then it means they can go attack the next one, because I'm sure all those guys, like the shape's probably there. It's just fine tuning now, and the margins they're going for, the way the standards are, that they have to like go out there and put themselves out there. It's not like they can go easy and just like go along for the ride almost early doors, even in April.
Yeah, I think this is a tough thing for people like Leonard and even Beattie and stuff. They've run their times out, like Leonard being a British record holder, running that 27.5. Once you run that, it is like the next thing. It's just all about getting the standard, but there's a big jump. But, from that to 27 minutes, it's a big jump. And, there's no doubt he can probably do it at some point. But it's just like, do you just approach these races by just keep attempting to run 27 minutes every race? Or 27:10, 27:15? Or do you go, well, actually, I've run 27.5 on the track, on the road. Maybe I just need to back that up on the track and then sort of build from there. But talking of the roads, they're all off to the European Road Running Championships, where we'll see them out there, and that'll be interesting. I actually haven't even looked at any of the. We'll preview that next week after Grand Slam and stuff. So we'll have an episode out early week. But some of the international entries that'll be doing that.
Yeah, for sure. But that's pretty much it for the results we've had. Nothing too much to report. I mean, track season's well and truly here. Obviously, like you said, the 10's gone down. Grand Slam is the new start of the outdoor season for many of the pros. So excited to see those guys as well. Obviously, as you're listening, you'll have seen most of those races go down. So hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure we will have done, but we will unpack all that next week as well. And then we've also recorded some good episodes for the next couple of weeks as well. So lots for you guys to look forward to. Thanks as always for listening to us, and we'll catch you very, very soon. Okay, first off, Sarah, just welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on, and congrats on a brilliant indoor season. Managed to do some celebrating?
Yeah, I have a bit. It's kind of hard to fit everything in, because I have, I feel like you have people to see everywhere. But yeah, I got back to Dublin for a few days, and then I was in London seeing my sister. And then I'm back to South Africa tomorrow. So it's been kind of hectic, but yeah, I've packed a lot in.
We want to start at the beginning for you, just to give a bit of background to all the listeners as well. But I guess I want to ask, did running come easy for you at the start?
Yeah, well, that's like a hard question, but I think the answer is probably yes. Because I don't actually think I really liked it too much initially. I more just kind of liked winning, and I kind of knew I was good at it, so that's kind of what kept me in it. But I played loads of other sports, and I honestly had a lot more fun playing those. If I hadn't been having success in running, I think I could easily have just kind of put my focus into those ones. But I just kind of knew that I obviously had talent there, so that kept me in it. But I think the enjoyment aspect took me a little bit longer to get.
Did you kind of enjoy it because you were doing well at it, and almost because you felt like you had that talent?
Yeah, I think so. But to be honest, because I played so many other sports, I never did that much training in a group, or I was part of a club, but I kind of would only go there maybe once a week. And so then I was playing all these other team sports, and so that was so much fun, and socially I made so many friends doing that, and then I was just kind of fitting running in around it. So I never really had many friends who also did running, but I had the social aspect and all the team sports. So then I obviously enjoyed those a lot more, and running was just something I just kind of did by myself where I could fit it in. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed the winning and doing well, and I kind of knew that I had some natural ability. So yeah,
it's big. The social side to running, and like you said, having mates who are also doing it and get it. I mean, fast forward to now, that's what you've got, right? Do you feel like you've kind of landed on your feet a little bit with the friendships? And you mentioned you're living with Aaron Wallace and people like that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so different for me being part of such a big group now, because I have kind of done a lot of training by myself up until joining Trevor and Jenny. And it was fine when I was in school because I was playing hockey and Gaelic football, and so I had my friends and everything through that. But then when I got to university, I stopped doing other sports, and then it was just running by myself. And then that's actually when I was like, this is really hard, and definitely struggled with that a bit. But yeah, definitely have landed on my feet in terms of the social aspect, and I've made so many friends since joining the group. And yeah, like I said, I live with I live with Erin, and so we're very good friends. So yeah, I'm lucky.
Yeah, for sure. You've obviously been based in that group for the past few years now, but I guess prior to college then and prior to moving on to Trevor and Jenny's group, what was your training setup before that?
So I was training in Dublin. My old coach's name was Owen Marnell, and I suppose it was kind of atypical. I just sort of met him through my club, Blackrock, when I can't really remember exactly now, but I'd say about 14. And I, at that time, I was running and I was doing well. But I had no kind of like structure, and I was playing all these other sports. So I just was kind of fitting in a bit of running where I could. And he came to the club and was helping out. And he had been an athlete, and he trained with some really good athletes himself. So he had a lot more knowledge than anyone I'd kind of met so far, I suppose. And then he just started guiding me. Well, it wasn't really me. I think my mum probably asked him a few questions, and he kind of suggested a few things I could do, on my own time. And then it just kind of evolved from there. And then he coached me right up until I left Ireland to join Jenny and Trevor. So yeah, it was like he was a really good coach for me, and he developed me so well, but I never kind of sought him out or anything. I just sort of stumbled upon it, and then it just gradually evolved between us. But he was so good at like fitting my training in around everything else I was doing, and so he never he probably was thinking, why is she doing all these other things? But he never suggested that I stop anything else. And he when you're in teams, you have to kind of prioritize that, because obviously they can't change matches and training around just for you. So I'd be like, okay, I have training these days and I have 2 matches on Saturday and this on Sunday, so I can't really run. He would look at that and be like, okay, so you can run this day, and that's what we'll do.
You must have had some energy as a kid.
I know. I don't know how, if you asked me to, or I went back and played like a past people's match 2 or 3 years ago, and I literally couldn't walk after. But yeah, I don't know how I did it.
I was going to ask, how did he prepare you for future success? The success you've had to date. I'm sure he's had a big impact on that. And you mentioned fitting and training. Is there anything else he did to kind of prepare you for the professional game?
Yeah, I'm still very close to them now, but I guess he just started off my whole development as an athlete. And even though I didn't really run, I couldn't really run that many days a week, I think everything I did do made a lot of sense. There was always, he's a very logical kind of person, and so everything kind of had a purpose, even if it was just fitting it in, even if I couldn't do it every day of the week. And yeah, never too much too soon. I think he probably realized that I could be good a lot before I did, but never kind of, he was never pushing me to be beyond where I needed to be at every certain age. And even I think I started, obviously, when you're 15, 16 in Ireland, I started coming over to run some BMCs here occasionally in the summer. And I think he kind of suggested I do that at the right time, but never, I think I was probably 16 maybe when I first did that, or maybe even 17. But, and then when I was 17, I went and raced once in Europe, raced a 1500 there. But he never pushed for me to be doing anything more than that. I think he knew when I needed opportunities like that, but never kind of beyond my age or what was necessary. I always stopped racing in probably July and took a lot of time off and did other things. So I think that set me up well. And even also just the training I did, I think has given me a really good kind of aerobic base for everything I do now.
Is it right as well that he was actually the one that suggested moving on when it got to the point that he kind of thought that your career needed a bit of a change?
Yeah, well, I think I kind of knew I needed a change, and I think I felt like being on my own wasn't working for me anymore. So I wanted a group, and I also knew that if I wanted to be a full-time athlete after university, staying in Dublin would just be really challenging for me. And so I was trying to make that decision, and I was looking at different groups, and I was thinking maybe I'm going to have to go over to America and join a group there, even though I didn't really want that, but I just thought that maybe that was what I should do, or kind of the only option. And he was kind of like, okay, but have you thought about this? So he suggested Jenny and Trevor. And I think he first reached out. to Jenny on my behalf. So yeah, it was their idea, and like it was definitely not something I would have come up with myself. And somehow I guess he just like knew it was the right thing to do, and so far it has been.
America's so popular. What put you off?
Probably just like living in America. I think that, and I mean it's very far away from home, and yeah, I didn't want to join a group as well where I would just kind of get lost in it and kind of just, they wouldn't really think about me as an individual. It's just like a plan would be thrown at me, and then if it worked, it worked, and it could be great. But if it didn't work, then there was kind of no plan B really. And obviously our group is very big now, but at the time it was a bit smaller. And also I knew, obviously I knew Healy and Erin had joined a couple months previously, and I knew they were kind of girls around my own age, which I knew like kind of that I would get on well with them, but that was definitely attractive to me as well, because I didn't want to be joining a group where everyone, I mean, I was only 22 at the time. I didn't want to be joining a group with a load of people who were near 30 and just kind of feel like I was at a different stage of life and everything to them.
That's fair. What about you? What was one of the biggest adjustments when you joined? Obviously, you moved over, which would have been an adjustment period, but within training and life, did it take a while?
Yeah, well, initially I didn't move over straight away because I was still in my final year. So I just went on the camps, and I just went on the camps and did the training by myself in Ireland. And there was a bit of an adjustment period, and I actually ended up getting injured within a few months of joining. But I think that was probably because I didn't really fully understand the new program. And so I probably tried to I didn't realize maybe how much more intensity I was doing. And so thought I could still just run the same way I had before and the same amount and the same kind of mileage and not suffer the consequences, which I then that did happen, and I ended up with a stress fracture within a few months of joining. But then after that, when I came back and got back to running, I think probably the intensity was the main adjustment, especially on the track. And with when under Owen, I hadn't been on the I wouldn't train on the track all that often, to be honest. And I think I used to be quite intimidated by going on the track and running, at 1500 pace and things like that. Whereas with Jenny and Trevor, we do so much of that work that it took me a while to get used to it. But now that's what I really enjoy doing in training. That's like my favorite kind of thing to do. But it just takes a while to get used to it. I suppose I'd never really cross trained either as well. I always just kind of ran. So that was new, and, training more often, more times a day, all that kind of stuff. Those were all big adjustments.
Speaking of that intensity, are you able to kind of like explain what some of those like sessions might be and what sort of paces they might look like? Because I guess the group as a whole has been becoming really well known for that intense training.
Yeah, I think it's just like when we're on the track, we run fast, and we just, it depends what I'm kind of working towards. If if I'm training for the 15 in the summer, I just do a lot of reps at around that. Well, I hope, each year you're kind of hoping that pace will get a bit faster, but 63, 62, 63, 64, just like a lot of reps at that kind of pace and stuff with maybe longer recovery, but a higher intensity reps. And it's very, very rare for me to be on the track and running kind of, slow and you want to be controlled at 1500 pace, I guess, but we don't go on the track and run slow really, and we're always in spikes. I think I've been responding well to that so far.
Cool. Old school, I guess, with all this lactate threshold flooding the running media. Is it competitive? You talk about always running race pace. Obviously, you got Georgia Bell and loads of others in the group now. Does it get a bit competitive? A bit tasty on the last rep?
It is and it isn't. I mean, I think it's competitive because it's almost competitive so much that it's not competitive anymore, because just the norm is for you to try your best, and the last rep, you go all out, or whatever you can do in the last rep. So you're not there like, oh my God, she's racing me today. It's just like, that's just the normal in training. So I wouldn't really say, so I don't know, I guess our normal is just to try your best and whoever's kind of left standing at the end. But it's not like you're out there trying to beat the other girls in training. And I think we all recognize that we can help each other out. And of course, we discuss if we have a lot of reps, I'll take some and you take some. But then it's not like there's any holding back either, really.
Is that something that's helped you, I guess, with your racing and developing that mental side? Because you mentioned just before around you used to be intimidated almost by running race pace on the track. Is, I guess, this new normal something that's contributed to your ability to race and obviously the great indoor season you've had?
Yeah, definitely. I think like we the type of training we do, you can like stand on the start line and think it gives you a lot of confidence in remembering some of the stuff you've done in training. So it has definitely helped me. And obviously training with girls as good as the people I do train with. I think, to be honest, like I think this season I've almost been doing that less though, because I think I used to really read into my training a lot and I'd be like, okay, I've done this in training, I should be able to do this in racing. But I sort of realize now that they're two different things, and like, yeah, you train as hard as you can, and we do some really hard things that should give you a lot of confidence, but it doesn't mean you're gonna run a certain time, or just because you're ahead of someone in training doesn't mean you'll beat them in a race, or vice versa. Like, they're two different arts, I suppose. So I think, it gives me confidence, but I'm trying not to read into it quite as much as I used to. And yeah, because at the end of the day, it's what you do in the race that matters.
Yeah, now might be a nice time to talk about mindset, because I feel like that was just a massive storyline which came out of your European gold. Everyone was saying about how your transition to the senior ranks was difficult after being a formidable junior and dominating European level. But to win a European gold at 24 is a pretty good transition, I would say. So you're probably quite a harsh critic. But let's talk about sort of Paris, Munich, Europeans, Worlds, that sort of 22, 23, 24 era where you were going to championships and you were probably holding high standards of yourself and you were walking away openly disappointed, and how difficult that time was.
Yeah, I know. When you say like 24, I realize I'm still quite young. But I think it's probably just because I've qualified for senior championships since I was 20. So I think even some of the people on the Irish team are like, yeah, it just feels like you've been around for a while, even though I am still quite young. And so it did kind of feel like a challenging transition. Although each year I have managed to get faster. So like my PBs have improved. So I have been improving, but it's just been kind of getting it out at the right time. But it has been really hard at times. And like I qualified for Tokyo Olympics when I was 20, and that was my first ever senior championship, which was probably a difficult championship to come to as your first one. Ever since that year, I've kind of qualified for most of the major championships. And, I know no one's expecting like a 20-year-old to, go and set the world on fire. And so, yeah, I am being a harsh critic, but they were massive underperformances, really, when you look at what I had ran going into it, and then just, not being able to get anywhere near it at all, like not being able to even compete and be in the race. And I kind of describe it, what I used to do is almost like checking out, and it would be like I'd completely just like frozen and like unable to race. So that, that was really challenging, and it's kind of like inexplicable. It's very hard to describe the feeling to other people. And yeah, that happened to me a few times. 2021, 2022, that year I qualified for Europeans and Worlds in Munich and Oregon, and they were both kind of big underperformances. And that was, after that year was when I was like, I need to make a change. And that's then when I joined Jenny and Trevor. And then in Budapest at Worlds in 2023, that was like a huge breakthrough for me. I made the semi-final and I ran a PB in the semi-final, running the best race of your life in a World Championship semi-final, like compared to what I'd been doing the previous years. That was huge. And, I was so proud of that at the time. And I kind of felt like, okay, I've turned a corner. I've got this championship running business down. But then 2024 was kind of like a step backwards again. I had in Glasgow at World Indoors, I fell, and then got to Paris and, underperformed again. And yeah, I mean, I know they're just bad races and you get over it, but like they did feel really hard, and it just felt like, what am I doing wrong? How, why can't I do this? But yeah, obviously then European Indoors, I suppose winning there just like made it just felt even more special, considering all those kind of bad moments. And Jenny messaged me, saying like it had been 7 months really since Paris by the time I got to European Indoors. And I am really proud of kind of how I turned that around, or kind of got over the disappointment of Paris, and sort of worked on a few things to make it so that I was able to, just perform well at European Indoors.
You mentioned working on a few things. What has been the biggest difference, I guess, between going through those hard races or those upsetting races to then going into this indoor season and being, I mean, you're an athlete who looks like you're full of confidence. I don't know if that's always the case, but from the outside looking in, you looked like you were ready to go, and all the way around that 3K, you kind of look like you are waiting to then make your move rather than being someone who was afraid to race. Like, didn't look like that at all.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still not the most confident athlete out there. I don't think you would ever really use that as like the first word to describe me, to be honest. But it's kind of hard to say what I've done. And, people are like, oh, have you worked with a sports psychologist? And I'm like, I've been doing that for years, I've been trying. But I think Paris is probably just like quite eye-opening in terms of my own performance and or like just kind of, it was sort of a turning point, and I realized like that my mindset was probably just like really letting me down. And like then I obviously watched Georgia go and win a medal, and on the one hand I felt like, oh my god, I was so far away from that because I just felt so awful there and felt like I couldn't run as I normally do. But then with some time after, I was like, okay, well, Georgia ran in 3:52 and she won a medal, and I don't think I could have done that on that day. But I thought, I'm not a million miles away from her at all. So like, there's no reason why I couldn't have at least made the final, because, and if she was up there winning bronze in 3:52, like there's just not that big of a gap, but there is a big gap in, I guess, our mindset and how we approach races. And yeah, I really didn't feel like I could race again after Paris. Like I just probably thought about calling the season. But Jenny and Trevor were actually quite probably the firmest Trevor has ever been with me. I got an opportunity to race in Silesia Diamond League a couple of weeks later, and I was like, I'm not ready for it. And he was just like, do it. Like, you need to do it. And I raced well there, and then I raced again in Rome Diamond League and raced well there. And so I was really, really proud of myself for that. And so I think I took a lot of confidence from that. And then I guess this year coming, I've actually started working with a new sports psychologist, so that has helped. But I think I just realized like it's probably just not as serious as I have it built up to be in my head. And I think last year being the Olympics, there was just a lot of pressure on me, or there wasn't. I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I think it's different, like, because I had ran the qualifying time, and in Ireland we don't have quite as many people with the qualifying time, so I kind of knew I was going all year. It wasn't like after British trials you have to wait to British trials and then you're so excited that you've made the team. Like, I just kind of knew I was going to be there all year, and so maybe the pressure was just like building. And I kind of was like, I'm a full-time athlete now, I need to have this big breakthrough year. And then at this year, there just like hasn't been that internal kind of pressure. And so I suppose I'm just a bit more like free to just run and see what happens.
It's interesting because it sounds like it took Paris for you to realize that, that pressure was almost self-inflicted in a way. I want to ask, like, how difficult is it for an athlete to kind of admit that, do you know what, my mental game is not where it needs to be if I'm going to compete at the highest level? Because I think it's easy to go, well, I'm just not as fit as that person. But I think it must be quite difficult to come to terms with really identifying your mindset as a weakness and then going away and working on it.
Yeah, I think, people say that and they'll say, yeah, you're so honest about that aspect of it. But I don't know. I don't find that hard to admit at all. I just think it is what it is. And it's such a huge part of running. It really, really is. And I suppose I don't really have a problem saying, yeah, like that was just my issue. And I guess you kind of sometimes when you've had those big underperformances, like, you want to explain what happened, and it feels difficult to explain when it is your mind. So yeah, for me, it's just, I don't mind being honest about it. And I guess it is what it is. And then I suppose it's kind of always been that's been letting me down. And then after World Indoors, I was just like, I was decently happy with my performance, but I was like, okay, I just need to get better. And like, that's kind of a different feeling for me, because normally it's like, okay, I was too nervous, I was this, that, and the other. Whereas at World Indoors, I was like, just need to get better. You
mentioned the pressures that come with being full-time, being a professional athlete. How do you switch off from that? How do you kind of take yourself out of that mindset of constantly just thinking about running?
Yeah, it is hard. And I think I'm always kind of a bit conscious of that and trying to find ways. And it is difficult because it is our whole lives. And especially since I've moved here, I don't have as much of an outlet. You know, in Dublin, I have lots of friends who aren't runners and like my family, whereas here, you know, I do have some great friends, like I mentioned, but we're all, you know, in the training group. You know, we don't sit around talking about running, but at the same time, it is kind of just like there. So yeah, I think it's important to be able to switch off and relax. So I've been, you know, looking for some hobbies, which is hard because to be honest, all the things I like doing are not like as a full-time runner. I can't join a hockey team here and start playing in my free time or things like that. So yeah, I kind of just like, you know, I like just do normal things, I suppose, and I try not to like consume loads of running content or constantly listen to running podcasts, even though I'm on one right now. And yeah, I guess I think the girls in our training group, we are actually friends. So we do like, we can't just have a nice time and like not talk about running. So that helps switch off. But yeah, I think it's like you just have to make a conscious effort probably to take your mind off it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a specific answer to that.
I feel like, is that where training camps are quite nice? Like you mentioned about going to South Africa. Yeah, it's completely different part of the world. Yeah, you haven't got all that running content in your face as much, and it looks like a place where you can really switch off. Like you can go on a safari, just chill out. You know, a little bit like Kenya in that sense. You've just got that really nice, relaxing balance around high intensity training.
Yeah, it is. I feel like I've been so busy the last while, so I'm actually looking forward to going out there for that reason this time. I do feel like we're just so tired the whole time that we're there that it's kind of hard to do anything else. But it is definitely the case that, yeah, you don't have like other life distractions when you're out there, and things are just like a bit simpler. We all live together we live in groups and when we're out there, and I feel like that just like makes it kind of fun, and we always like have a laugh and stuff. And normally there's some kind of like, we'll do some group activities and things like that. But yeah, so I suppose like the training is so hard there, but everything else is pretty chill.
The group's obviously grown loads in the past few years, but particularly in the last year or so. How has that changed, I guess, the dynamics? And then do you know how many of you exactly are going to be out there this coming camp?
I don't. I think I've heard the number 30 maybe be floated around. I don't know. I think April is the time that everyone can come because even the younger people in our group are on holidays from school. Obviously there's not 30 full-time professional athletes in our group, but yeah, it has grown a lot this year. I guess the dynamic, it has changed, I suppose, just because there's more of us, and I guess like I like having more people to train with. So, you know, that's a positive. I think for Jenny and Trevor, they're probably busier, and I'm sure that's really challenging for them. But like my relationship with them hasn't, you know, changed just because there's more of us. I think you like just have to be, you know, I try to like pick the right moments to, you know, they still have plenty of time for all of us. I guess it's just like picking the right moments to have your conversation. I guess we have there's more boys in our group, which we didn't have before. I think it's fun to have like more personalities, and so everyone kind of brings something to the group that is nice like that. And yeah, the track is just very busy. But you know, I'm happy to have more people to kind of like share the load with, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's only a win-win. But I'm intrigued. How often will you interact with Trevor and Jenny? Will that be like on a daily basis? You're having like a deep talk about running, or is it like once a week? Or
I think no, I don't have deep talks with them every day. But I think different people in the group are different. Like, it's kind of funny that I very rarely message Trevor ever, just because I guess I've just always kind of gravitated more towards, if I have something I really need to discuss, I end up messaging Jenny. But I think different people in the group are different in that respect. So Trevor sends me my training, and then like I obviously talk to him about it at training. But if there's like something really going on, I'll definitely be ringing up Jenny. And then sometimes it's funny because I think I assume that if I tell Jenny something, Trevor automatically knows, but they have so much going on, and she said, like, she's told me before that they don't necessarily tell each other every single thing. So then I might have told Jenny and assume Trevor knows, but it's not always the case. But also I think it's as much as you want, I think different. I don't know what other people in the group like want or need, but I don't really want constant communication like that all the time. But like, as long as I know they're there if I need them, which they are. So yeah, I suppose it's just kind of like as much as you want and or need. And I think especially when things are going well, you tend to just like it's when you're injured or when something's going wrong that you really need it. Whereas like if things are just going well, I'm just kind of like happy getting on with it myself.
And obviously, outside of the support from the coaches at M11, what sort of support are you getting from Irish Athletics, and how much kind of input do they have around your scheduling or things like that, I guess?
Well, I suppose, yeah, I'm not really in the, like, we have a Institute of Sport in Ireland, which is in Dublin, but I don't live there or train there, so I don't use it all that often. But yeah, I'm on funding from Sport Ireland, and they help me out with other things like physio and strength and conditioning here in Manchester. But yeah, I guess I've sort of set up my own support system here, so they just kind of help little bits when they can. But I guess I'm kind of doing my own thing.
Irish athletics is on the rise, although you and Coscoran are both based in Manchester now.
Yeah.
But I wonder, because when we spoke to Phelan like ages ago, he was saying, I think they wanted to start, paying coaches. It was quite a long time where they weren't paying coaches and stuff. So have there been any noticeable changes at Irish athletics? Obviously, Europeans, you guys, Mark English, yourself, Coscoran, pentathlete getting a medal. It was a mega champs.
Yeah, it is doing really well at the minute. I don't actually know if they did start paying. Like, to be honest, I don't know about the money side of things as much. I think it's just a good time in Irish athletics, and it's hard to like give a reason for that, though. I guess some of it is just like random, but there's like good momentum, and I think there's just like a high standard within the team, so then everyone kind of rises to it. And yeah, I think it's good as well that it's like across a number of events, like from like the 400s to like Kate winning medal at Europeans and Worlds in the pentathlon. So yeah, it's across all the events as well, which is good. And yeah, although like obviously some of us are based away, I don't think that you necessarily have to do that. Like, there's great facilities, great coaches in Ireland. I suppose again, it's just like individual people doing different things, but there's definitely people doing really well in Ireland as well.
We've obviously mentioned the kind of race, but we haven't really gone into how you felt going into it more specifically, because we've spoken about mindset, and you really did, I guess, for everyone looking at those lineups, you had a very strong chance of winning gold. And how did you feel going into the championships at Europeans, and how did you kind of measure your effort in relation to, I guess, that expectation that was coming from externally, but also from yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I felt really good going in, and like I had a kind of almost perfect indoor season, and so everything had been going exactly the way I'd wanted it to go. And so I'd actually never been to a European indoors before, so I knew, like, I really did know that it was like a big opportunity for me to win a medal, and I really, really wanted that, especially because like I've had so many disappointing championships. I just like really wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. But then everything was going perfect, so it was all kind of lining up for me to be able to win a medal. But I was like really conscious of not letting that kind of overwhelm me. I just knew that like if I put too much expectation on myself like that I could kind of just like let the moment overwhelm me and not perform. So I really, like, I know people do say, you have to like focus on the process and not the outcome, but I did try to be really, really strict with myself about that. And like in the week or so leading up to it, I really just didn't allow myself to think too much about a medal and like make it this big thing in my mind, because I just knew that was kind of like a recipe for disaster. And even if I thought about them, like, if it came into my mind like an image of it, I would just be like, no, like you can't do that. And like I'd obviously established quite a good process for racing I'd race 4 or 5 times going into it, so I just was like, I just need to do the exact same thing again. I was strict with myself about that, and I think it just like helped me to stay calm. And I just really didn't want to have this kind of like all or nothing, it's like a do or die. You need to go out and here and get a medal, or else you'll be devastated. Like, I just tried to remind myself that like it was a good opportunity, but it was all going to be okay regardless of what happened or regardless of what the outcome was, and just like stick to my normal process.
Yeah, let the training do its job. Was there a sense of relief when you crossed the line? It kind of looked like that initially, in those celebrations.
Yeah, I think so. I think I suppose it was relief. I suppose I was just like, I was like particularly happy just because it was gold. Like, going in, I kind of knew I had a really good chance of a medal, and I probably felt quite confident that I could and would get a medal, but I just didn't know like what color it would be. And I think I really would have been happy with anything, but just winning, I guess. It's so rare to win races as a professional athlete. And so it just really doesn't happen that the last few years, like there's not many times that I crossed the line first. So it's just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. But yeah, I think just relief that, yeah, it had worked out and that I was, I hadn't come fourth. And yeah, that I'd had a good championship was, definitely, that was all kind of relief. But I suppose winning gold was more just like pure kind of happiness. Yeah.
And how much of I guess the race plan was scripted with Trevor and Jenny prior to the race? Because obviously you kind of sat in for pretty much the whole race and then waited till the last moment to make your move. And Millie Courtney Bryant obviously doing a lot of work in the last K and stuff. But were you expecting that? And how much of that was, I guess, planned?
Yeah, we did obviously plan it out, or we did talk about it a lot before the race. But then at the same time, there wasn't really too much to be said. I kind of knew that I had the tools for sort of whichever way the race went, whether it was fast or slow. Like obviously I'd ran an 8:30 coming in, and then, because I normally do the 1500, I kind of, would back myself if it had been, just like a burn up at the end as well. And so, yeah, I just planned on, staying near the front and covering any moves. Then I kind of thought in the last like 400 to somewhere in the last 400 I might want to hit the front, but I kind of thought someone in the race would want to take it on and get it going like from about halfway out, just because there were so many girls in it and people had run fast times, and I just figured somebody would want to do that. And so I was kind of surprised when that didn't happen. And I guess while I was in the race, I wasn't really thinking about that because it was just so chaotic. So I was just kind of like kept trying to establish a position, and then it was only really at about 600 to go that I realized like there's still so many of us here, like this is kind of crazy. And then I obviously left it to like the very last minute, which wasn't really my plan. I think that was just kind of like my instinct, and I felt surprisingly just like calm the whole way around. I felt like I was kind of just waiting for something to happen, and nothing ever really did happen until like the last 100 meters really, which I guess in hindsight was quite a risky thing to do, to leave it that late, but it worked out. So yeah
it did. I got to ask quickly while we're on the topic of Europeans, were those banks as steep as everyone was saying?
I think so. I think they were. I mean, obviously in the 3K, you don't really notice it too much. But when we went to China and we saw the indoor track there, it was just, I definitely was like, that made me realize like how steep the one at Europeans have been, because the one in China just looked like more like a normal indoor track to me. And then, at Europeans, just like crazy steep banks and very short straights, like that finishing straight. I mean, like I said, I left it to the last finishing straight, and then that last finishing straight was so short because of the way the track was set up.
And then obviously, you go to China, you pick yourself back up. Was it difficult to do that? And how important was it for you to go to the Worlds and compete and deliver another really solid performance as well in a short time span?
Yeah, it was definitely it was important. It was kind of always in my mind to do both if I qualified for both. I think Europeans was kind of always my priority, just because I knew I would have a good chance of a medal there. But I guess with the year being so long, it just we're with Outdoor Worlds not being until September, for me it just made sense to try and do both. But it was difficult, I have to say. We went straight to Dubai after Europeans, which was great. I think that was definitely the right thing to do, and it helped break up the travel. I just my first track session out there, I just felt like could hardly move. I just felt like I have no speed, no pop, nothing. But that's a totally normal. I guess you're physically tired, and obviously just a big emotional high and low. But then by the end of our week in Dubai, I definitely felt myself coming around again. And by the time we got to China, I felt excited and ready to go again. I was really looking forward to that race in China, because I just felt it was no pressure and kind of just a free hit. I also just thought it might be a really fast race, and so I was looking forward to getting in something like that and seeing what I could do, and hopefully running a PB and just trying to see how high I could place. And obviously the race didn't really pan out exactly like that, which is okay. You obviously can't choose how these things go. And I think I gave a decent account of myself there. wasn't like, I didn't come off the track like absolutely ecstatic, but I definitely wasn't, like super disappointed either. It was just kind of solid run from me, I thought. But I think considering I'd been at Europeans and had that high and that low to navigate, I think it was a good result.
Yeah. Going forwards then, how do you go about planning the rest of your season? Obviously you've got camp coming up, but like you mentioned, the Worlds is a long way away. How do you go from that high of Europeans, then like you say, a solid run at Worlds, and then attempting to rebuild and prepare yourself for something that is right at the end of the summer?
Yeah, I guess you just kind of get straight back into it, and I think it helps that we're going away on camp, and we'll definitely be in a bit of like a rebuild phase, and it's almost like winter training again. And yeah, then I've already started to plan my summer race schedule, and Jenny and Trevor are really good people. Like, they have so much knowledge about that type of stuff, and I think they're really good at planning out a season in that way. And obviously, I guess you kind of mainly look at, the first half of the summer and kind of plan out your races, and then you have a rough plan for the second half of the summer going into Worlds. But obviously, you need to be like adaptable, and some of that changes. I'm really excited for that, and indoors is really fun, but it's also just so condensed that I race like almost every weekend through February and March, and so that is hard. And whereas when I look at my race plan for the summer, it's kind of nice. You have like time to actually a couple, maybe 2 weeks in between things. You have time to actually train and kind of regroup and reset, and then before you have to go again. And obviously just more time to like build fitness and more opportunities to race and get the most out of yourself. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I think this year with Worlds being at the very end, it's obviously like different, but I think it'll be good like that. And I think it's nice. You have that date in mind, and then you just kind of like work backwards from there. But yeah, I'm excited and hoping to run. Hopefully, I'll get to run a 3K outdoors this summer. And then mostly 1500s.
5K.
I don't know. I get asked that a lot. But maybe not this year. Maybe next year. Well, I don't plan on moving up anytime soon, but I know I need to give it a go at some point.
For sure. Well, look, we wish you all the best racing in the summer. But thanks so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.